Members, welcome back for the afternoon. 2:30, call the House to order. We're going to be working on messages from the Senate. First is what we'll be asking for. Allow the chamber to go ahead and get filled up. Just as a little side note, thank you, Representative Wasserberger. This is one of the most comfortable chairs I've ever been able to have the opportunity to sit in. I like the little footrests, is what's kind of cool about it. Messages from the Senate.
Message number 9. Mr. Speaker, the Senate voted by a 2/3 vote of the membership to override the governor's vetoes to Senate File 132 and Enrolled Act number 58 as follows. Override governor's veto to Senate Enrolled Act number 58 being original Senate File 132. Message 462. Mr. Speaker, Senate File 32, Unpaved Roads, Speed Limits Amendments. The Senate adopted the Joint Conference Committee number 2 report on the bill listed above by the vote indicated. Ayes 22, noes 9. Message 463. Mr. Speaker, Senate File 196, Second Amendment Protection Act Amendments. The Senate adopted the Joint Conference Committee number 1 report on the bill listed above by the vote indicated. Ayes 31. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson, Senate Chief Clerk.
Thank you, Reading Clerk. Okay, Joint Conference Committees. Okay. Oh, this is, you don't want that one. Okay, we are at that order of business of business consideration of Joint Conference Committee reports. First report for our consideration is Joint Conference Committee report number 463 in regards to Senate File number 196. Representative Haraldson, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move message number 463 on Senate File 196 and ask for an aye vote. So what we did is we went down and had a conversation with our Senate counterparts. The concern they had was the severability clause. And the concept we had behind the severability clause is if something were to fall in that statute section due to a court case or due to a challenge, that the rest would stand up. But it was brought to our attention that in 81103, rules for construction of statutes, we actually already have protection in this realm. And so it was not something we needed. So your Joint Conference Committee agreed with the Senate on this, and we eliminated the severability clause. Nothing else has changed in the bill, and would ask for an aye vote on concurrence.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, question being called. We are voting on Joint Conference Committee report number 463 in regards to Senate File 196. A majority of elected members is required to adopt the report. The Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown, Gary? Brown, Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clauston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Feiler. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas, excused. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Riggins. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washat. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Worf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker. Are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 54 aye, 4 no, 4 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Conference Committee Report Number 463 to Senate File 196. Okay, the next one for our consideration is message number 462, Joint Conference Committee Report, Representative Geringer. This is in regards to Senate File Number 32, unpaved roads, speed limits amendments. Difficult both directions, Representative Geringer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move message number 462, Senate File 32, unpaved roads, and ask for your favorable consideration. After not finding agreement on the first conference committee, and going back and forth on the second, we did come to a resolution that was acceptable by all parties. It appeared, not all parties, most of those involved. What we did was, if you recall, in our version of the bill, we allowed the speed limit to be lowered from 55 to 45 without a speed study. In this amendment, we are actually lowering that to 35. And then the local authority can also establish a temporary speed limit below that for a period of up to a year so that they can conduct a speed study or for any conditions that may warrant on a limited basis. So I think it's a good point in between that I think accomplishes what needs to be accomplished. I'd ask for your aye vote.
Any discussion? Question being called? No discussion? All right, members, you are voting on Joint Conference Committee Report Number 462 to Senate File Number 32. Majority of the elected members is required to adopt the report. Chief Clerk, please call the roll. Representative Thayer, do you want your $5 back? Representative Davis. You sure? I'll just put it in the courtesy fund.
Allemand,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to go ahead and take the roll. Chief Kirk, please call the roll.
Allemand, Andrew, Angelos, Banks, Bear, Brady, Bratton, Brown, Gary, Brown, Gary, Brown, Landon, excused, Byron, excused, Campbell, Elisa, Campbell, Kevin, Chestick, Clauston, Connolly, Davis, Eklund, Erickson, Filer, Geringer, Guggenmoss, Haroldson, Harshman, Heiner, Heft, Jarvis, Johnson, Kelly, Knapp, Larson Lloyd, Larson JT, Lawley, Lean, Locke, Lucas, excused, McCann, Nicholas, Ottman, Pendergraft, Posey, Provenza, Riggins, Rodriguez-Williams, Schmid, Sherwood, Singh, Smith, Storer, Strock, Stivar, Tarver, Thayer, Washut, Wasserberger, Webb, Weber, Worf, Williams, Winter, Wiley, Wiley, Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Brady, aye. To no further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 46 aye, 13 no, 3 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Senate Conference Committee Report number 462 to Senate File 32. Okay. All right. Next, we have a Joint Conference Committee Report. Reference message number 416 to HB 154, Representative Clauston. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move message number 416 to House Bill 154 and ask for your favorable concurrence. We adopted two of the Senate's amendments that everyone felt made the bill actually better, and then we deleted three of their amendments, which basically would have ruined the bill. We had our executive in charge of elections there. He agreed with what we came up with, so did the bringer of the bill. So we, pretty much everybody left there happy. So I think we bring you a better bill and ask for your concurrence. Thank you.
Any discussion? Representative Larson, Lloyd, first time, please.
So could we kind of learn what it was you done?
Any others? Representative Yin.
So, Mr. Speaker, if you are looking at the introduced version, the things that were changed was the part where it says "or" on the new language, it got split out and put into a subsection 5 Romanet 5. The Senate had originally taken out offering to vote. The conference committee put back in offering to vote, and the language with empowering the Secretary of State to make a request as well was also put back in. It was taken out on the other side. The conference committee put it back in.
Thank you, Representative Yen. Anyone else? First time? Seeing none? Second time? Good. Back to the ringer. We're all good? Okay, members, you are voting on Joint Conference Committee Report number 416 on House Bill 154. A majority of the elected members is required to adopt the report. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Ellerman, Andrew, Angelos, Banks, Bear, Brady, Bratton, Brown Gary, Brown Landon, excused, Byron, excused, Campbell Elisa, Campbell Kevin, Chestick, Clauston, Connolly, Davis, Eklund, Erickson, Filer, Geringer, Guggenmoss, Haroldson, Harshman, Heiner, Heft, Jarvis, Johnson, Kelly, Knapp, Larson Lloyd, Larson JT, Lawley, Lean, Locke, Lucas, excused, McCann, Nicholas, Ottman, Pendergraft, Posey, Provenza, Riggins, Rodriguez-Williams, Schmid, Sherwood, Singh, Smith, Storer, Strock, Stivar, Tarver, Thayer, Washut, Wasserberger, Webb, Weber, Worf, Williams, Winter, Wiley, Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Byron, excused to aye. Further changes? Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted, Joint Conference Committee Report number 416 to House Bill 154. Next report for our consideration, message number 419 to House Bill 246. Representative Locke, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Joint Conference Committee Report, Senate Message 419 to House Bill 246, Wyoming Wednesday. And I'll give you all a real quick synopsis. It left this House every single Wednesday was Wyoming Wednesday. It came back. There was only one Wyoming Wednesday a year. But by golly, we got in there and we had a knockdown drag out. And we came back with every second Wednesday of the month. So there's 12 Wyoming Wednesdays through the course of the year. So I ask for your aye vote for Wyoming Wednesday.
That was an enthusiastic Joint Conference Committee report. Well done. Way to go fight for our position. Thank you very much. Representative Stivar, would you like to opine on that?
Just vote aye.
Thank you, Representative Stivar. Any other discussion? Discussion being called. We are voting on Joint Conference Committee Report number 419 to House Bill 246. A majority of the elected members is required to adopt the report. The Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Allemand, Andrew, Angelos, Banks, Bear, Brady, Bratton, Brown Gary, Brown Landon, excused, Byron, Campbell Elisa, Campbell Kevin, Chestick, Clauston, Connolly, Davis, Eklund, Erickson, Filer, Geringer, Guggenmoss, Haroldson, Harshman, Heiner, Heft, Jarvis, Johnson, Kelly, Knapp, Larson Lloyd, Larson JT, Lawley, Lean, Locke, Lucas, excused, McCann, Nicholas, Ottman, Pendergraft, Posey, Provenza. Riggins. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strzok. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Worf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Byler, no to aye. Kelly, aye to no. Further changes? Further changes? Closing vote? Vote closed. 56 aye, 4 no, 2 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted Joint Conference Committee Report number 419 to House Bill 246. Okay. Next, we have a veto override. So do we want to, let's see, Representative Heiner, this is message number 9. Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Senate File 132.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Article 4, Sections 8 and 9 of the Wyoming Constitution, I move that the House of Representatives override the governor's veto of Senate Enrolled Act Number 58, being original Senate File Number 132, protecting critical infrastructure and systems from drones.
The motion to override the governor's veto of Senate Enrolled Act number 58 being original Senate File 132 is in order. The vote is to override and is debatable and requiring a 2/3 majority of the members elected. Is there anyone who would like to discuss? Representative J.T. Larson, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I encourage an aye vote to override the veto of our chief executive. This bill passed with well over a 2/3 majority in this body, and I think we need to stick to our guns and make sure we pass this legislation. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Larson. Representative, as they fight over the microphone, Clouston won. Way to go, Representative Clouston. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, just want to remind this body, 2 years ago, we passed Senate File 32, which dealt with unmanned aircraft over our penitentiaries and prisons. And some of the statutes and language used in this bill, Senate File 132, is exactly the same, and it's from those same statutes that we passed into law 2 years ago. So I'm going to ask for your aye vote on overriding the veto.
Representative Stivar, first time.
I voted no on this bill, so I'm going to be a no vote on this.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Jarvis, first time now.
Thank you, Speaker. So originally I had co-signed this on this specific bill. And after the head of our nation took over and had committed to coming out and putting in a disclosure or fully disclosing what was going on, in a state that, can we nicknames, known as being Dirty Jersey? So, but what happened is he came back in, said that the FAA, can I say, because that is in the bill, so I believe I can say that.
Yes, ma'am, you
is
can.
part of the veto process, knew what it was and not to worry. So we do have a person at the helm who is going to take action on this. And I question, because of the nature for which this human did not come out specifically and say exactly who it is and what they're doing, that this might not be the best of ideas for us to blaze a trail on at this specific point in time. I fully entertain the doing it in the future and was a complete supporter, having not acquired that additional information. But if you go back and you read the articles on his statements specifically on this specific topic, it might warrant a little bit of caution here.
Representative Provenza for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and against the override, this bill places our law enforcement in a peculiar situation. And potentially this, and what I talked about when we were discussing the bill, it puts them in direct conflict with federal law. And when we do that, we are potentially signing them up for, if we're asking them to follow state law and ignore federal law, there are consequences to that. There's federal penalties, including fines, and up to 20 years. This is, as I stated before, complicated issue. We talked about it in committee number 1 at great length. It puts people in harm's way, particularly our law enforcement. So if you want to back the blue, I would not override this veto. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Bear for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to talk a little bit about when I was in the Navy. That's about the time that drones started. Folks, this bill just drones on and on. Let's vote aye and get it over with.
Any other representatives for their first time? No others? Second time. Representative Larson, would you like to speak to this bill second time?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Encourage an aye vote, members. This is supposed to kind of send a message more than anything that Wyoming is ready to defend its airspace, and encourage an aye vote on that. Thanks.
All right, members, the motion is to override the governor's veto on Senate Enrolled Act number 58, being original Senate file number 132. Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Reagans? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker? Are there any changes? Are there any changes? Wasserberger, aye. To no. Further changes. Guggenmoss, aye. To no. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 47 aye, 13 no, 2 excused.
By your vote, you have voted to override the governor's veto of Senate Enrolled Act number 58, being original Senate file number 132. You're at that order of business of enrolled acts. First enrolled act for our consideration. Senate Enrolled Act number 70. Reading clerk.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 70, being original Senate File 51, an act relating to the Wyoming Telecommunications Act, extending the sunset date of the act, amending definitions, specifying the application of the act, specifying requirements for providing price schedules to the Public Service Commission, providing a limitation on local governments entering an exclusive agreement for provisions of broadband internet access service, amending the price benchmark and credit requirements for the Universal Service Fund, repealing conflicting provisions and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign Enrolled Act number 70, having been original Senate file 51. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act 71.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 71, being original Senate File 43, an act relating to water, extending the number of years for which temporary water rights may be granted, providing exceptions and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act number 71, having been original Senate file number 43. I have so signed. Next Senate Enrolled Act number 72.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 72, being original Senate File 86, an act relating to the certification of teachers, modifying the duties of the Professional Teaching Standards Board, creating an alternative teacher certificate for K through 12 teachers, establishing requirements for alternative certification, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign Enrolled Act number 72, having been original Senate file number 86. I have so signed. Okay, I think that completes our enrolled acts at this point. Does that clean us up? I think that does us. We are at that order of business of bills on third reading and final passage. First bill for our consideration is, marked it, where did we leave off at? Senate file number 44.
Senate File 44, sponsored by Senator Schuler. Fairness in Sports, Intercollegiate Athletics, an act relating to education, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
We have amendments, Senate File 44, third reading. Representative Jarvis.
Thank you, Speaker.
Oh,
So
sorry. Didn't even see you.
I
Please,
move-
excuse me. Go ahead.
Am I okay? Okay. I move third reading Amendment 1 on Senate File 44 and ask for your favorable consideration. So I spoke to a lot of people and I talked to a lot of different organizations to get this information. And what I'm proposing is on page 2, line 9, that we delete the House Standing Committee amendments, which are the definitions that we've used on past bills for the definition of how we're defining a woman and a definition for how we're defining a man. And then on page 3, line 17, after official, I am inserting the word original and then birth certificate. And let me explain a little bit as to why I'm proposing this. The definition, when I spoke to different attorneys and medical providers, it's vague enough that it's going to force the courts to have to decide on who will actually determine, who will make that determination, and as well as the medical providers I spoke with. I asked every single one of them, is there any way to avoid an internal examination? And the answer was no. There are two ways to go about this. It's bimanual. It's a bimanual examination, or it's a transvaginal ultrasound in order to confirm eggs. We're talking about women's sports here. We're not talking about things that would warrant doing this. We're literally just talking about somebody coming in and proving that they are female or male. The definition also doesn't account for things like, and they actually, the medical providers this was the one that came up the absolute most, was congenital adrenal hyperplasia. And don't quote me on the exact pronunciation of that. But that was the one that they said most commonly cannot be determined under this definition. So it absolutely just doesn't work in that context among other ones. And I'm happy to share with everybody the emails that I got back from medical providers on all the different ones that it didn't account for. So why back to the birth certificate when we said birth certificates are not great documents, I think, at the beginning of this session? Well, after talking to the vital collection or data collection agency in the state of Wyoming that's in charge of birth certificates, they said that in Wyoming, a birth certificate is marked amended right on the birth certificate, and the information regarding the change is listed on the certificate in a manner with all the court information listed right on it as well. The majority, I also found out, states do that exact same thing. But here's something that everybody does need to know. All states in the US keep records of the amendments and the corrections made to birth certificates. And all this is a subpoena of those records. All a court has to do is subpoena the records for the original birth certificate. So if you subpoena that, you're going to get the records of exactly what was changed, whether it be legally adopted, like whatever. It will be right there on the birth certificate. There's no exceptions to that. Every single state accounts for it, whether they put it on the birth certificate or not. So what I'm asking is that even though we've used this definition on several other things, that maybe we back out when we find a better definition and we consider this definition, because it's not requiring a bimanual examination or a transvaginal ultrasound in order to determine if you are woman or not. Not trying to kill the bill, and would have brought this amendment a lot sooner had I not gotten the information back from all of the experts sooner. But I would like to strongly encourage this body. All I'm doing is changing the definition so it is not internally invasive to women, and they can provide a piece of paper or a subpoena to go get that information to prove that they are female.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Lawley, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to divide this amendment, but I'm going to spare the body that exercise and just tell you I strongly oppose the amendment. we have overwhelmingly approved these definitions in all the bills that we passed in the area of gender issues. And then that was intentional. It's really important that Wyoming speak with clarity and consistency into this space. We've had numerous hearings on, so we're two different sports bills in play. So there's been at least 3 that I know of committee hearings where this definition was talked about and discussed, and none of the information that the good bringer of this amendment had was ever brought in. And I don't even find it persuasive anyway, but I'm just saying, this isn't a committee hearing. This is third reading on definitions that we have overwhelmingly approved time after time after time. And so I think we've already determined that they are legally defensible and they serve a certain kind of purpose. So again, I ask you to resist definitely that part of the amendment. Concerning the birth certificates, first of all, it's not just about what the state of Wyoming does. We're talking about collegiate sports. They come from many different states in order to be part of our teams at UW. So even the word official, or what did I say, original, official inserted original. Listen, that word original is actually very vague. To me, that might say to my generation, it's not a copy. It's an original piece of paper. So it just brings vagueness and confusion really to that line. If we said something like, originally issued or something like that, it might be a little clearer, but there's no need for it. This part of this bill was in the original bill that was brought by the good senator down the hall. And what that provision is about the first steps in trying to navigate this space, that you start, as we've said before on other of the gender bills that we've had, that you start with what you already start with. You start with things like birth certificates. And then you don't really have to go beyond that unless there's a reason that appears for going beyond what is on that birth certificate. So that part is just not necessary. And I think actually, I know it may not be the intent of the bringer, but it actually creates confusion to say official original. What does that mean? I'm not sure. Official has a meaning. It's an official document of a government agency. So again, I just say resist it. Hopefully this is the last time we have to resist some of these amendments that are really taking the same vote over and over again. So strongly oppose the amendment and ask for your no vote on the amendment.
Representative Kelly, for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to remind the body why the birth certificate conundrum is unsolvable. We have 8 states right now that the original, the official birth certificate, parents could mark the letter X. They can choose none of the above.
Any other members for their first time? On the amendment, first time on the amendment, second time on the amendment? Neither? Back to the bringer. Representative Jarvis, please.
Thank you, Speaker. So the official original is the original document. As far as what was brought up in this specifically, it doesn't address that the current term definitions that we're using and what they actually do. Just because you can check a box doesn't mean that that was the original and that it doesn't say amended on it onto what that actually was. When I talked to all of these, I'm trying not to say the correct name of it, vital data collection agencies that do this, it was very easy to subpoena. So if there's any question on if it's an original or if it's not, or if it's an official original, just subpoena the records from the agency directly, and you're going to get the information. And that states requirements. And if that state did, per se, have something, then the courts can actually do some additional investigation in order to prove that. But we don't need to go directly at a very beginning, firsthand, into an internal examination of a woman when there are multiple other options. And 8 out of 50 is not very many, and it's not that hard to pinpoint them really fast. When we know better, we can do better. There is huge faults in the current definitions, and I'm offering a least invasive definition that we can go to, and we can move forward. And the fact that we've used it in a ton of different things, in a ton of different bills, if, trying to say this kindly, if we got it wrong to begin with, it's not that hard to come back and change. And we can take steps to show that we do actually care about the safety of women and not create situations like this right out of the gates. Thank you.
Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 44. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The amendment has not been adopted. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate File 44 having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? The chief clerk just got a major pile of papers, but she will call the roll whenever she is ready.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly? I'm sorry, repeat. Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Allemand, no to aye. Angelos, no to aye. Further changes? Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 52 aye, 8 no, 2 excused.
Senate File 44, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, Senate File 44 has now passed the House. Next for our consideration, Senate File 70.
Senate File 70, sponsored by Capital Finance. Investment modernization, state non-permanent funds, an act related to public funds being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
We have amendments. Representative Harshman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 70, and members appreciate your consideration. Made a little change to yesterday's income tax prevention account. And again, what we're trying to do is take our money and actually get it working harder for us and working better. And other sovereign wealth funds around the world have done this. And using that, the power of the number 72, and I just want to show you the change is on the bottom of page 1, and it's all predicated on a balance of the LSRA. If you look at yesterday's goldenrod, with no budget, school CapCon changes, other changes to bills. The LSRA is almost back to where we started. So we're about 100 million under where we started this thing in January, so it's just a few short weeks ago, we were like 1.1 billion. So we're back, and I'm always hopeful that our investment team downstairs, maybe they're over in the Hathaway, will return some investments, and if we're above 2 billion, then we would flow 100 million to start this policy. And then the other change, members, ladies and gentlemen, is on page 2. If you'd scroll to the amendment on page 2, lines 6, 7, and 8. And then it just says additional transfers in future years shall be subject to legislative appropriation. Now, I put that in there, but it's always that way. But I wanted to say it specifically in there. So I hope that avoids any thought that things tip without us looking at it or those things. We always appropriate. So stand for any questions, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for their first time? Representative Baer for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I appreciate the bringer. This is several attempts now at doing this. But folks, what I said earlier about this particular bill or amendment when it was brought earlier is still true. If we're going to do a savings account of this magnitude, and it's a different policy, definitely changing policy here, we really should get this in front of the people. We should make it truly inviolate. We should make it something that the people can be proud of, just like this body would be proud of. So on and against the amendment, let's bring this back next time as a joint resolution. Let's get it to the people. Let's make it permanent. Let's make it inviolate.
Any other members for their first time? Representative Washer, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So it seemed to me, and the good bringer can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if someone starts saving and it's not an inviolate savings account, it doesn't mean it has to stay in a non-secure account, right? We can take a savings account that we create today and make it inviolate in the future, if that's the will of the people, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's correct. We could start this savings and then make it inviolate in the future.
Representative Filer? First time.
Thanks, Steve. Guys, thanks, Mr. Speaker. On for this, I think this this new amendment actually addresses many of the concerns that a lot of us had yesterday. You know, we're just gonna automatic tips. It's guaranteed, it has to be that way no matter what for 14 years. Takes those, makes it a lot harder to get to it. Now it's a lot easier, so it kind of loosens it up to where we actually look at it every single year. You know, it's just, I think there was something that was said yesterday, you know, never been a financial advisor that says, you know, we should wait till tomorrow. But this is also, we got to understand, because I know there's going to be representatives that get up and they're going to most likely say that, you know, it's a spending issue. We're not spending it. It says no money, this is not an appropriation to spend this money. All it says is, hey, we got this right now. If the LSRA, which used to be that account that I believe this body set up, I think without a resolution, I'd have to look into that. But they set this up in order for future legislators, and we had a stabilization account we were saving for the future. And the one other thing I really like about this too, folks, is this is a way of making sure we don't end up with an income tax. This is one way we could start with that. I don't ever want an income tax. I lived in another state one time where I had over 10 deductions off my paycheck for all the different taxes we had to pay, including a tax that taxed you because you worked. That's no kidding. It's called a right to work tax. I don't want to go down this road. This is what makes our state great. Low population, good savings accounts, the right values, hard work, and what we do is we make sure we take care of the next ones behind us. always done it. So I think this is a great opportunity, and I think the new amendment addresses a lot of those concerns where that a number 2 committee is gonna have to look at it every single year. We're gonna have to make the decision to put money into that account. I mean, I think this is great, it's transparent, and so on and forth.
Representative Chestik, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the good bringer of this amendment. On page 1, line 42 to 44, I recall the original bill was to make this, the original amendment was to do this annually. And if I read this correctly, maybe I'm missing something, and that's my question, am I missing something? This is a one-time thing. On July 21st, 2025, that's a specific date, later this year, we'll transfer $100 million if the LISRA is big enough. There's no requirement that I could see that happens ever again, except for on that single date. Am I missing something here? I'm confused.
Representative Pendergraft, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and against the amendment, not necessarily, as I've said before, against the concept, but I would point out that in just the last 3 amendments that have been brought, we've seen 3 different iterations of this with some substantially different ideas behind it, which to me says we need the chance to work this properly from the beginning, run it through a couple of committees, run it through readings on the floors of the chambers, and thoroughly discuss this. This isn't something that we do in a last-minute, third reading amendment. On and against.
Any other members for their first time? Members for their first time, seeing none, second time? On the amendment, second time. Seeing none, Representative Harshman, back to the bringer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to answer the question, a good representative from Albany County. It's actually a one-time if the LSRA is at $2 billion on July 1st, and then over to page 2 will require additional transfers to this account will in the future shall be subject to legislative appropriation. And that's over on page 2, line 5, 6, and 7. And part of that, I just put that in there because remember yesterday we had the whips, tips, and flips conversation. And so I don't want people on this floor to ever think that we're not in charge of the money. We are. We can make changes to anything except from withdrawing from inviolate constitutionally protected accounts. So that brings me to the representative from Campbell County said, should take this to the voters and make this inviolate account. And if you take your goldenrod out, again on the front page of yesterday's goldenrod, I want to show you 2 big accounts that are not inviolate. And they were not taken to the voters. So it's right down on line 61, Permanent Wyoming Mineral Trust Fund Spending Policy Reserve Account. You can see over the third column, column T, $563 million. That's not an inviolate account. In fact, my fear is we're going to try to shrink up revenue and then we're going to be dipping into those accounts. Actually, I think that's some people's plan. Want to spend that down. It's not inviolate. Okay, the one under it's even bigger. Line 70, the Common School Permanent Land Fund Spending Policy Reserve Account. You go there, $687 million. So you got about 1.2, almost 3 billion that is inviolate, that is sitting out there. And I don't even like to say it because I don't want people to go in and spend it. It's there to back up our whole revenue policy, right? The spending policy amount, which is an amount of revenue that comes off our investments. So don't get confused with any of that. I don't think this needs to be inviolate. And then finally, yesterday we heard, don't do this because it's second reading. Now today, don't do it because it's third reading. It's the same concept, same amendment, just putting money into it differently. And I just tell you that, and I still got the pieces of paper up there on the 43rd. I hope you stopped by and looked at some of those stalwarts of our state. And I think this is really the next step. And there's something really good that the 68th legislature could do for our state. And think back to the last 8 weeks. What have we really done that's changed the state? And then I think, I heard a lot yesterday, and, oh, we can do that, we'll study it. And I think that's part of the biggest lie. You ever heard the biggest lie the devil ever told? You got plenty of time. We'll do it next time. We'll do it next week, next year. We'll study it. Biggest lie ever told. And you folks who are new, you think this 8 weeks went fast, and you think it's tough to pass a bill? Wait till next year when we have to have this constitutional requirement of a 2/3 vote to even let the speaker introduce a bill. Just the ones that he wants to pull out of his drawer and put out to the committees, we get a vote. It's going to take 2/3 of us. Good luck. You look at individual bills and how those go in those budget sessions. And so I would suggest to you that this is the 68th's last chance, although I do have an amendment on another bill coming up. But this is it, folks. And then when you go home and you say, we did this, this, and this, and this, what did we really do? So when I think about 68 legislatures, and I think, I don't know, where's the 43rd sit? First group to go every year, you know. Well, they got to be in the top 5. Change the state forever. Where's the 68th going to sit? What do we change forever? It's a good question, I think, and the whole history, and it's going to go fast. We'll be like those folks on the wall before you know it. So we don't have a lot of time. It's not that hard of a concept. It's really the next step. So please vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Boddy. This is going to require a 2/3 per Article 16, Section 6, A to C of our rules. Amendment. Oh, that's right. This is the amendment. But with this, bear in mind, this is going to be required 2/3 on this amendment. On the bill itself. On the bill, not on the amendment. I'm just trying to prep for this.
Mr. Speaker, if I could, one more.
Please, that's fine.
Just we're voting on the amendment, we'll take a
Yes.
majority vote, and I'd
Correct.
like to invoke Rule 12-4 for the ayes and noes.
We'll need 2 seconds. Representative Davis and Provenza.
Thank you.
You bet.
And this is on the amendment, the income tax
Amendment number
prevention
1.
account. Thank you.
Amendment, the third reading amendment number 1, Senate File 70. Chief Clerk will take the roll when she gets things organized here.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clauston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Feiler? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 24 aye, 36 no, 2 excused.
By your vote, you have chosen not to adopt third reading amendment number 1 to Senate file number 70. Okay. Senate file number 70, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? This is a 2/3. Chief Clerk, will please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clauston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Feiler? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker. Eklund, can you repeat? Are there any changes? Are there any changes? Brady? No to aye. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 58 aye, 2 no, 2 excused.
Senate file 70, having received the affirmative vote of the majority members of the House, 2/3 of the House, elected to the House, Senate file number 70 has passed the House. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate file number 95.
Senate File 95, sponsored by Senator Rothfuss. Special Purpose Depository Institution Amendments, an act relating to banks, banking, and finance being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
We have amendments. Representative Feiler, please.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 95 and ask for your guys' favorable consideration. Folks, what this does, this is a proposed amendment allowing the special purpose depository institutions to convert into full-fledged state banks in a significant step for Wyoming's financial sector. Originally designed to handle digital assets like cryptocurrency, SPDIs currently face limitations in offering traditional banking services. This amendment creates a clear regulatory pathway for these institutions to transition into state banks and unlocking new opportunities for growth and stability. What else this amendment does, folks, too, is it strengthens Wyoming's financial sector by allowing SPDIs to become state banks. This amendment fosters great competition, innovation, and access to financial services. It boosts economic development. More full-service banks means increased access to capital for businesses, job creation, and overall economic expansion. Enhances consumer protection. The state banks operate under stricter regulatory oversight, ensuring more security and stability for its customers, and it positions Wyoming as a financial innovator. Wyoming has been the leader in cryptocurrency regulation, and this amendment reinforces the state's role at a forefront of the financial innovation. It prepares Wyoming for federal stablecoin legislation with the commander-in-chief, I guess, can I say that? Commander-in-chief and the bigger legislative body. Considering new regulations on stablecoins, Wyoming is positioning itself ahead of the federal mandates by allowing SPDIs to transition into state-chartered banks. The state ensures financial institutions can remain competitive and compliant with the potential federal requirements. This proactive approach strengthens Wyoming's financial sector and ensures continued leadership in the digital asset banking. So in short, folks, that was the long explanation. So in short, that this amendment modernizes Wyoming's banking laws, supports financial growth, and ensures that Wyoming remains the national leader in innovation banking solutions. And I also want to add, folks, that in this amendment, it does have where all the it has to go through the boards, the commissions, they got to apply for this, they got to go through all the scrutiny, everything like that in order to even become a bank, a state chartered bank. So what this does is it just allows this maybe to start bridging this gap that we have between chartered banks and depositories. So I'll stand for any questions, which I know I'm going to get some. I thought we had a deal.
Representative Singh, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So on and for this amendment, this allows for a seamless transition in between a special purpose depository institution and a bank. And this is a form of innovation in this space that we have the opportunity to take that next step here and start implementing something like that. And so on and for.
Representative Baer, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a lot of questions. Here we have a 3-page amendment on third reading, and I'm curious where this came from. I know that at the federal level, attempting to get these types of institutions converted or associated with a federal bank, the federal courts have thrown that out. I guess it's kind of novel to try to work with state banks in this regard. Seems interesting, but has there ever been any debate on this? Where did this come from? Was it offered as an amendment earlier in committee? Was it discussed? Just seems odd that here on third reading, we're getting a 3-page amendment. A lot of questions.
Representative Locke, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I ask you to resist this amendment. This was discussed in the committee extensively, and we actually were very patient. We listened to this in a lot of detail, and the organization that oversees banks had a lot of input and a lot of discussion on this. There were a lot of open questions after a significant amount of testimony and discussion on this. And because of that, we felt like this has potential, but we felt like it would be better if this moved into the interim as an interim topic. Again, I ask you to resist it, not because it's a bad idea, but at the end of the day, we do think further and more detailed discussion is required to make sure as we move this entity forward, which we think is a very important entity, has a great place in our state. As most of you know, we're unique in having put this type of bank in place. We're all in favor of it. We want to move it forward wisely. And again, please resist.
Representative Yin, for your first time, sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. So my colleague that's on the Corporations Committee and is also a chairman is correct. This was something that we did hear in Corporations Committee, but the language wasn't quite ready then. It didn't really have agreements with those folks who oversee our banking. But this language, from what I understand, has covered all of that ground. The question of why should we do this now versus why over the interim or wait, so we would wait till next year. Well, we have a different federal government now than we had last year, one that is much friendlier to blockchain than we had last year. If we had known that this would have been more possible, we would have probably worked on making sure that we could get this in the bill during the last interim, but we weren't quite as confident as we are now that there could be some changes in federal legislation that would make this more feasible. And so that's why it's before you now.
Representative Davis, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure if this really is, but I have a question on my tongue here for the good bringer of this amendment. How would the gold that we passed, would that tie into this in secure ways or anything? No. Okay. Okay. Definitely no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Davis. Representative Knapp, first time, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and against the amendment, this did come to committee, and it's a heavy lift if you think about it, going from a digital bank to a regular bank, and we had a lot of questions, and it was a heavy lift. And so we decided that that would be better to move to interim, because in the future you'll also see regular banks want to participate in the digital arena. And so I think it's still an interim topic. And so I would resist this at the last minute, trying to put it all into one amendment at the last moment.
Any other representatives for their first time? First time? No more for their first time? Second time? Seeing none rushing to the microphones for their second time, Representative Filer, please bring us home.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All great questions. All great questions, folks. First off, if you read through the amendment, all the safeguards are in there. That's first off. Secondly, this also costs our state $0. Doesn't cost us to do this whatsoever. Okay, and how this was put together was actually put together by a division of, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, a division of who handles our financial stuff in our personal lives, even with our debit cards, okay? And it also ran out of time. But as we go through this, I want you all to remember, we do have a new administration that's very heavily in support of this. Secondly, there's other states getting ready to do this, and we're going to get left behind. And then one of those states is actually out on the East Coast, has this big statue with liberties all about it. And if we don't start jumping on this and we become the leader of this right now, they will swallow up every piece of new companies that ever want to do this. Because whatever state passes this, it gets this moving forward, they're going to gobble up those companies. I'm telling you right now, they're going to gobble them up, especially in this industry. This industry is fast moving, it's fast paced, and people are going to go right to that. But I want to just remind everybody, this is not like something that we can just jump right into and poof, they're automatically a state chartered bank. In the amendment, they have a huge process that they have to go through, all the checks and balances to even do this, just like any other bank would that wants to come here. But if we're going to be the leaders in blockchain, digital innovation, cryptocurrencies, all these different things, if we're going to be the leader, because there's other states already leaving us behind on some other parts of this, we might really want to start jumping in and doing this. And, and I'm hoping that this doesn't, the big amendment doesn't scare anybody. If anybody reads the amendment, it's pretty straightforward and standard on how these become a state chartered bank. So let's not let some other state on the East Coast eat us up on this. Let's be the leader in this, and let's bring those companies here. This is great for economics here in Wyoming. Huge. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 95 is what you're being asked to decide on. All those, there's no roll call on this, is there? In favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Amendment has not been adopted. Senate File number 95, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Now, the chief clerk will please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly?
Shh. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Feiler? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haraldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Repeat? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused.
Senate File 95, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, Senate File 95 has passed the House.
Privilege.
Representative Stivar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My better half brought ice cream sandwiches, ice cream bars that are in the freezer. Help yourself to them.
Thank you, Representative Stivar, for your efforts towards helping us along with our freshman 15. Is that what it is that they call it, the freshman 15? Okay, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next one for our consideration, Senate File 153.
Senate File 153, sponsored by Senator Barlow. Residential real property taxable value, an act relating to taxation and revenue being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
Okay, we have a couple amendments. First Amendment, Representative Larson, JT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I withdraw third reading amendment number 1 to House or Senate File 153.
Amendment is asked to be withdrawn. Any objection? Seeing no objection from the body, the amendment has been withdrawn. Next amendment for our consideration, number 2, to Senate File number 153, Representative Yin.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I respectfully withdraw third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 153.
Bringer is asked to withdraw the amendment. Is there any objection from the body? Seeing none, the amendment has been withdrawn. Next amendment for our consideration to Senate File 153, amendment number 3, Representative Larson, JT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 153 and ask for your favorable consideration. Members, during the budget discussion, we discussed having $72 million for the 8 hardship counties and special districts. That was when we were discussing a 50% tax cut. And now that we have discussed a 25% tax cut, figured it was reasonable to cut that number in half. So that's where the $36 million comes from. This is Same language as what the budget amendment had provided, just 36 million instead of 72 million. And I think it's important we do backfill our counties that need it the most and who will be impacted the most. And I encourage an aye vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Williams, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the bringer of the amendment. And we have discussed this at length, and it certainly will make the difference for the hardship counties in the state. Please vote aye.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members for their first time? No members, first, second, back to the bringer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm surprised there wasn't more discussion on this, but, you know, I came down here to represent my constituents, and that's where this amendment comes from. I don't listen to anything that, all the noise that's going on at the other end of the hall or anything like that. I came here to vote on legislation and bills that benefit my constituents, and so encourage a aye vote on this amendment. And I would assume that there would be support for this since we've passed it before, but I could be wrong. So thanks.
Thank you, Representative. Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 153. This is a roll call. It is. This has an appropriation in it. Number 3. 153, third reading number 3. Chief Clerk, whenever you're prepared, please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown, Gary? Brown, Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell, Elisa? Campbell, Kevin? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Repeat? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas? Excused? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Campbell, Elisa, aye. To no further changes. Closing vote. Harshman? Closing vote. Vote closed. 17 aye, 43 no, 2 excused.
By your vote, you have decided not to adopt third reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 153. Next amendment for our consideration, amendment number 4, Representative Larson, JT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I will move third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 153. Members, this is another amendment for your consideration for backfill of our property taxes, property tax cut. It doesn't do a full backfill, but what it does do is for any taxing jurisdiction that assesses their full mill, they qualify for backfill of what they lost. So I think that this approach is probably more of a fair approach across the board to all of our counties, as long as they are utilizing their full mills, and encourage an aye vote on this. And, you know, I think as a House, we have to stand for our positions. We've passed backfill in the budget at 72 million. And I think we should continue to stand for our position. It shouldn't be about what the other body's going to do or what the guy downstairs is going to do. We have to do what's right for our constituents. So again, I encourage an aye vote. Thank you.
Any members? Representative Williams, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, this is the difference for those of us who have a very narrow tax base, residential property tax base, and I sense your enthusiasm for this amendment, and I thank you in advance for your aye vote.
Any other members for their first time? First time. Seeing none. Second time, back to the bringer. Representative Larson, JT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm really surprised that people aren't getting up and talking about this. This is really an important issue, but I guess only some of us care. Thanks.
Representative Larson, we can't presume, please. Representative Larson, we can't presume what people are or not cared or concerned about. This is very concerning to all of us. So let these folks have their vote without any descriptions of what we believe or don't believe about their positions on these issues. Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 153. This is a roll call. Chief Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon, excused. Byron? Campbell Lisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clouston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Wharf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Washut, aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 19 aye, 41 no, 2 excused.
So let's see, by your vote, third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File number 153 has not been adopted. Senate File number 153 having been read 3 separate times.
Mr. Speaker.
Oh, we
Yep,
got another one
Mr.
coming?
Speaker, yes.
Okay. We have one more amendment, I guess. Number 5, Representative Yin.
Mr. Speaker, I move third reading amendment number 5 to Senate File 153 and ask for favorable consideration. So members, this is actually really kind of important. We have two big tax cut bills. We had Senate File 69 and we have this one, Senate File 153. Both chambers, we sent it to the chief executive's desk downstairs for that 25% tax cut on all residential. This rate reduction from 9.5 to 8.3 is about another 15%. So the risk of sending both down at the same time without this amendment is that we do more tax cutting than we really thought about how we make it up to those local governments at the same time. We've kind of thought of these bills individually, but haven't really thought about what would happen if we passed them both together. What this amendment does is make it so if we have the Senate File 69 get enacted into law, this Senate file would keep the rate at 9.5. So all of the other action that it does, like splitting the rate classes up, would stay the same, but all the rates would still stay at 9.5. And if for some reason Senate File 69 doesn't make it over the finish line completely, with this amendment and us passing the Senate file, we would still get that rate reduction. And again, I think it's really important to actually consider these together now, even though previously we've kind of considered them separately. And with that, I ask for your favorable consideration, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Yin. Any members for your first time? Representative Washut for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I think this amendment has some merit. I know in our county, they're still calculating and taking applications for the long-term benefit reduction from last year. We don't know the extent of what that's going to amount to. And so we start having the long-term benefit, then we have the 169 or 69, and then we have this drop to 8.3. The cumulative impact of that might be much more impactful on your county or some of our counties than we're anticipating. And I think we've done a good job of passing some things along to help the people back home in terms of their property tax. But I don't think any of us are interested in unforeseen impacts above and beyond what we're thinking of right now. So I think this amendment has merit and I'm honored for it.
Any other member for their first time? Representative Connolly. First
Good
time.
afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
Good afternoon, Representative Connolly. How are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing just great.
That's awesome. You go
It's been a
ahead.
good afternoon so far, and we've done a lot of good things this afternoon, so.
Agreed,
I
Representative.
think the next good thing we need to do is vote for this amendment. So I'm on in favor of the amendment.
Thank you, Representative Connolly. Appreciate the conversation. Any other members? First time. Representative Davis, first time, please.
Mr. Speaker, you can't beat that last one. So I'm on for the amendment too.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Bear for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, first for a second, please.
First for a second. Any other members? First time. Representative Locke, Chairman Locke.
Mr. Speaker, first for a second, please.
First for a second. Any other members? Representative Larson, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First for a second, if I may.
Very good, sir. First for a second. Let me guess, Representative Hirschman.
Mr. Speaker, I'd hate to be left out. First for a second.
Yes, sir, we can do
Thank
that.
you.
I have room on this line just for you, Representative Hirschman. We're good. Any other members? First for a second. Oh, my heavens, here we go. Let the river flow. Go ahead. Representative Sherwood, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, I have something to add to the conversation.
There we
right now.
go. Thank you. Please
Thank
proceed.
you. So if you look at the way that this bill came out of the body down the hall, this percentage now lines up with that original intent of breaking out the classes, but keeping it at that 9.5%. So just FYI.
Thank you, Representative Sherwood. Representative Williams, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First for a second.
Thank you. First for a second. Any other members first time? Is that it? All done? First time, going once, going last time, second time. Representative Bear for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So here we are again making a policy decision. And so everybody needs to really get on their game as we make this vote on this amendment and on this bill. So what this amendment does is it takes it back, as the previous speaker said, to the original bill as it came from the other chamber here. Why was this bill presented? We had Amendment A that was on our ballots, and that passed pretty overwhelmingly throughout the state. What did Amendment A do? It allowed us, this body, to go ahead and create a fourth division, taking residential away from the other category. Well, what is in the other category? You have ag, you have commercial, and you have personal property. So those three were separated away from residential with this bill. It also allowed us to do that fourth category as a different rate and create a subcategory. And this bill purports to do just that. This body took that percentage, which is in other right now, 9.5%. There was an amendment that came out of the committee that changed it to 8.3. That's the maximum we could lower that percentage. That works out, by my calculation, to about a 12.5%. I think the bringer of the amendment said 15%. Additional reduction in the property tax payers bill. We have passed Senate File 69, another bill, with a 25% tax reduction. That's on the executive's desk right now. If we were to pass this and make it past the other body on concurrence and then go to the executive's desk, and he also allows it to pass as it sits right now without this amendment, we would be looking at about a 37.5% total reduction. And this body passed two bills that were 50%. So I just want to remind you, so the policy here is, on this amendment, do we want to just pass it out with another division? Or do we want to pass it out, changing it back up to closer to that 50% that we approved of twice in this body for the taxpayers? And this will be for most likely perpetuity. So as we added to 69, we took the sunset out of it. That's 25% until this body changes it. And this is probably a lot more constitutional over time. So this one will last even longer if there's a constitutional challenge to 69. So there's the difference. Do we want to leave 69 at 25%? Do we want to add this one to it and make it 38%? If you do, you should vote no on this amendment. But I want to add another thing, and maybe, I don't know if I get a chance to when we get to the bill itself. Folks, when Amendment A passed and we divided that out, and now we're talking about this 12.5%, if we should pass this out, that your constituents would pay in less taxes. What does that do when you take the residential away from the commercial? In 1988, why did our predecessors bundle them all together in this other category? Well, it's pretty simple. You can lower taxes on the residential where most of the voters are, and you can raise taxes on the corporations where it's only a few voters, and you can make up for it. I don't believe this body would ever do that, but that's what could happen. So what would happen if that were to take place? Our constituents, through our reductions in taxes on residential, would pay less in their residential property taxes. But folks, corporations, they don't pay taxes, they pass that on to their consumers. So Amendment A effectuated a situation where you're going to pay for your property tax.
Representative, what's your point?
I'm not clear if we're still on the amendment or not. we seem to have wandered off a bit from that, so I'm just not clear if we're still on the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I'll make it very, very, very clear. That's what I'm trying to do here.
All right.
This is a policy decision, and we all need to take this very seriously, both this amendment and the vote after that on the bill. So when you raise taxes on corporations, that goes right back to the consumers. So your homeowners are going to pay less in property taxes once or twice a year, and then they will end up paying that tax in higher costs in goods and services. So that's how this 12.5% will likely work years down the road. If another body decides, hey, we'd like to make up for that lower taxes in residential by raising corporate taxes in the other category. So I just want everybody to understand that's how this all works, so you can make a good decision. I am on and opposed to the amendment, but on and for the bill as it sits right now.
Any other members? Second time. Representative Larson, Lloyd, second time.
I appreciate the effort, but I don't know if the last explanation was real clear for me. And so I'm going to ask the presenter of the amendment if he can help us, walk us through that just a little bit. So 69, or the bill that we passed, it's on the executive's desk, it's a 25% reduction in property taxes. Based on what percentage, right? And so if 53, the one that we're looking at right now, would be 8.3% under its current, if I'm understanding correctly. So you'd have 25% based on an 8.3. This amendment is saying, do we want, was it our intent to give 25% on 8.3 or 9.5? And so if he can just clarify that, because I think what he's saying is that kind of had two different purposes here, at least for some, two different purposes here, two different vehicles. This one would have come in and lowered personal property tax to 8.3, independent of any other actions. But because of this other action, it's going to be 8.3, there will be 25% reduction of the 8.3. And if that's, so it is an enhanced, and maybe I've got this wrong, and so if he could clarify that, it'd help me.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members? Representative Williams, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So we heard at length about the two 50% cut bills that we passed out of this body. But if I remember correctly, and maybe this was mentioned in that explanation, but that was when backfill was part of the conversation. And now that backfill is not part of the conversation, I think we're in uncharted territory here. And so I do support this amendment for the points that we've heard already, even though it takes my amendment out. I do believe it saves us from unintended consequences, and I believe it's wise on for the amendment.
Any other member? I've got Connolly, Davis, Locke, Harshman, and Sherwood. And still speak to this amendment. Second time. Representative Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we got to back up a little bit. We got a little narrative on a lot of history, but I think, and I don't want to go into all that. We've done a lot. I mean, the 4% cap is huge. The long-term homeowners is huge. What we've done for business personal property, intangible personal property is incredible this year. But I think we've got two bills now with residential property decreases. If we don't pass this amendment, then this bill goes to conference committee because it came over to us at 9.5. If we keep 8.3 on there, it's going to go to a conference committee. Okay, I think this amendment kind of gives us a sweet way to do this because it's going to say it's 8.3 until Senate File 69 is signed into law, and then it'll be 9.5. I don't know what they'll do at the other end of the hall where the sun sets on them every day. I don't know. But I would think this bill would stand a much better chance of passing like that. If we just keep this thing 9.3, it's going to conference. I mean, I would think. And I don't, or 8.3, and that's $55 million to our local governments. The 25% in Senate File 69 is about 127 million. This one in 1 year. So two separate pieces of legislation. I don't think there's any way this House is going to be able to kind of pile those onto each other for a 39% cut. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I kind of want the success of the legislation, both bills, and I think this is a really elegant kind of safety net. Says, hey, if something monkey business happens to 69, we still got this one. If you pass 69, okay, we got our green books in line with the Constitution now. I think it's a really good way to do it. So I'd hope we'd support it, and then we'll push forward with Senate File 69 as that gets signed into law. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members for their second time? Representative Locke, for your second time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think everybody kind of heard the numbers and everything, and this is a tricky one. I know there's lots of different opinions in this room. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm probably going to vote against the amendment and just move this forward as it is. But again, just wanted to kind of put that out there. I know everybody's got a good feel for how these all work together, and it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Again, I'm against the amendment, but for the bill.
I've got room for Connolly, Davis, and Sherwood if they would like. Seeing none, back to the bringer. Representative Yin, please, sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. So, yes, if Senate File 69 is passed, we get a 25% reduction in our property taxes. If this is also passed without this amendment, it's an 8.3% tax assessment, so our tax bill will come out lower, and then we also get another 25% out from under that. The issue is, you know, we passed 50% tax, 50% exemptions out of this chamber. We passed those as a 2-year temporary 50% exemption, and we also passed them with 50% backfill on that end. If we pass both of these bills together, we are passing more permanent tax cuts than we had considered in either of the 50% tax bills, right? Because this is permanent. This isn't a 2-year deal. And again, both of these bills are only talking about owner-occupied or occupied housing. So the second homes, they still will pay the same no matter what, whether we pass this amendment, and even if Senate File 69 passes. Those don't get touched. This is only talking about those two bills and whether we want to double reduce the taxes and also have no backfill, and also make it permanent, completely permanent. Would highly recommend adopting this amendment. I suspect that if this amendment doesn't fly, well, I mean, I don't know what could happen. I mean, anything could happen. It could go the other side. They might accept it. It might go downstairs. All of those combinations could happen. The biggest risk for me is if both of them get enacted, we need to make sure that we've actually properly thought about how much tax cut we're giving versus how much backfill, which is right now 0. And so, important to think about. I do ask for your aye vote, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Yin. Body, you are voting on third reading amendment number 5 to Senate File 153. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Chairs in doubt. All those in favor, please stand. Stand and stand still so we can get a good count on you. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. Okay. You may be seated. The amendment has not been adopted, 27 to 33. So with that in mind, and I do believe, I don't see any others, Senate File 153 having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Allemand. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Brady. Bratton. Brown Gary. Brown Landon, excused. Byron. Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clauston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Filer. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Harrelson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas. Excused. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Riggins. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Worf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 51 aye, 9 no, 2 excused.
Senate File 153 having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, Senate File 153 has now passed the House. Next bill for our consideration, Senate File 169.
Senate File 169, sponsored by Senator Hicks. Strategic Investments and Projects Account Repeal, an act relating to public funds being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
We have amendments. First Amendment, Representative Washut, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 1, the Senate File 169, and ask for your favorable consideration. So members, this is basically the same amendment we saw yesterday on second reading, but you'll notice that a couple things have changed. Number 1, on line 3, we changed from appropriate to transfer. And that ties the language in the amendment, in the amendment on line 9, ties into line 3 of the bill, on page 1 of the bill, that we use the term transfer in both. So the purpose of the bill in the title is to relate to public funds, that's a general title, and then repeal the Strategic Investments Projects account, semicolon, providing for the transfer from the SIPA account. And so what the amendment does is transfer a whopping $1 from the SIPA into the Wyoming State Shooting Complex account. Now that Wyoming State Shooting Complex account was created back in 2023 when the original bill passed, and the original $10 million is resident in that account. And so this amendment will move $1 additional into that account and then authorize those funds in that account to be expended by the department that takes care of our state parks. That's what the amendment does. This is probably our last best effort to fund the Wyoming State Shooting Complex. I've talked to many of you yesterday, and I got lots of people saying, I support the project. I support the project. I just want to make sure that this thing's constitutional. And I don't know how we could make it any more constitutional. The bill title says we're going to transfer funds from the SIPA, and this amendment is transferring funds, a very small amount of funds, from the SIPA into this project's account, and then giving the legislative authorization to expend those funds to the department, which is required by the original bill back in 2023. So if you want a Wyoming State Shooting Complex, please vote aye on this amendment. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for their first time? Representative Haroldson, for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So yesterday I was against this as we were bringing $3 million out of this for funding it. Honestly, I believe that the funds for this project should not be coming out of this account. With that being said, I'm okay with $1. And I think this is a way that we can stay true to our word on doing that. And I'm just going to mention one thing, because I know there's two hearts when it comes to this. One is this isn't the role and we shouldn't have done this. We did. Now, we don't have to do the second one if you don't want to. This body can decide that, but I believe there is a point where we can be true to our word, and I think this is a mechanism we can do it. This is $1. This is really not a fiscal issue, even though I do believe we'll have to do a roll call vote, which is funny. But I believe this is an answer that we can take, and we can continue this project forward. There's a lot of time, energy, and money expended by a lot of different people to move this in this direction, and this is a way that we can stay true to our word and release the money that's already been expended for this project, and then next year we can go back and address the extra money they'll need to finish their project. So on and for the amendment.
Members, Representative Winter, Chairman Winter, for your first time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Folks, there's been a lot of time and effort put into this whole shooting complex. Right now, it's scheduled to be in Cody, and to me, that's the best place in the whole state that's put out an application. It's the best place for that shooting complex. There's a lot of good folks in that area who are manufacturers of shooting equipment, and they're all in favor of it. And we just need to get this thing approved, and so they can move forward. And I think the bringer come up with a real good plan here to do that. So please vote aye.
Representative Pendergraft, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and for the amendment. You guys will probably remember a discussion on the floor where a good representative from the far western edge of the state made a very eloquent speech, and I came up after that and commented, thought that he was spot on. I still think that. But I also still think the rest of what I said, and the rest of what I said was even if this was a mistake in the beginning, we made that mistake, and now we've got to make the best of that. And where we're at now is we've got a lot of people, as was mentioned earlier, that have put a lot of time and energy and effort into this. We've basically given our word, and here's an opportunity to keep that. And I thank the bringer for coming up with this.
Representative Filer, for your first time.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be short and sweet about this. If the dollar anybody has heartburn over the dollar, I'll donate it back to the auditor's office.
Representative Schmidt, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I have spoken out against this project since it began a couple years ago. And there's been a lot of effort to kind of change my position on this project. But I'll tell you folks, I just can't do it. I've thought about it and I've thought about it and I just can't do it. This is not, and I've said this before, this is not the function of this body or the state to get involved in these kind of projects. We move forward on this. How are we going to say no to the next one? How do we do that? You say yes to this one, we say no to the next one. Is that what we're going to do? I don't think that's what we're here for. I mentioned there's people up there that have shooting ranges, that this body is going to put our state in direct competition with those folks. Is that right? Think about that. There's a lot of business people in here. How would you like it if the state come into your area and put something together or built something to go into direct competition with you? How would you feel about that? It's just not right. That's not our function. You know, we talk about the black eye the state's going to get because of all this hoopla we've put on this thing for the last 2 years. The state might get a black eye. But I mentioned this the last time. Black eyes heal. You know what doesn't heal? Is us cutting the throats of those 3 people that got businesses up there. Those don't heal. Those take you out. And that's not our job. Thank you.
Representative Worf, your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the bringer of the amendment, I have a question. I see on line 10, it's been represented that this is just $1, but I look and I see as I read on line 10, it says $1 or as much thereof as is available. And I guess the question I have is, how much is available? What is the true upper limit of what this amendment would do to this bill? Thank you.
Representative Kelly, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to thank the bringer of the amendment for bringing a solution. We've talked before about we bring solutions to problems here, and I think he's threaded the needle for a conundrum we found ourselves in here about how do we maintain our principles, how do we keep our promises at the same time. And to answer the good representative's questions earlier, how would I say no to the next one? I'd say no. This is not what we do. But we have to remember that this decision wasn't made by us. It was made by this institution. And we are not the institution. We are temporary here until the next roll of legislators or paper towels or whatever you want to say gets brought into this important institution. It's not us who will receive the black eye. We'll forget about it. It's the institution, it's the state of Wyoming that will receive the black eye for making these promises, for making these deals, and then pulling out of it at the last minute. So I understand the principle completely, that this is not the job of government to get and work with private industries to compete against private industries. I believe it is picking winners and losers. But again, I will say this decision was already made, and it's too late to go back on that. Again, the institution has to keep its word at this point. And thank you again for bringing this idea so we can get out of this mess.
Representative Heft, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This carrot got dangled to many communities who jumped on board and tried to do their very best to get it into their communities as a benefit to the shooting sports for our entire state. One reason, another reason is income for their communities. That's another reason. This institution did. bring this forward. I get it. We struggle with this. But I think this is an innovative way to get it going. I believe very much that once we get it going, that it should be run self-sufficiently. I've said that from the beginning. I've said that every time I've talked about this thing. I'm an executive director of our local gun club. It is not going to affect us in any way. Let's get this moving.
Representative Yin, for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Members, on the constitutional question, again, this bill is about moving money out of SIPA. The amendment moves $1 out of SIPA. The language about as much as available is standard language that we use on a lot of parts where we have the risk of an account getting shrunken to zero before that amount can actually be appropriated. So if there's only 23 cents left in SIPA, 23 cents would be appropriated in the amendment. So it's an upper limit, not a lower limit. So max of $1 will move out of SIPA with this amendment. The reason that the amendment has to exist at all is because the account that we put the money, the already appropriated money in for the shooting sports complex is locked. We locked it with language in our previous bills. I think it was 2023 when we set up the task force and put money away for the complex. The $1 pays for the key to unlock the box to spend the money that we already appropriated. That's all it is. On and for. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Minority Leader Yin. Representative Knapp, for your first time, sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'm still a little confused. You know, I was there when the task force was talked about, and the task force was talked about going out and finding out about the shooting range and seeing if we could get any private individuals interested in the range, looking at different locations, coming back to this body and deciding what to do. So I guess I wasn't there when a promise was made. So I'm not sure why we're talking about black eyes and our principles and our promises. This is a process. This was a process that started with a task force, and since that time, it's been a rushed process, very rushed. So I'm a little concerned that we're pushing forward and talking about how we need to fund this when we never talked about it being on state land. We never talked about state dollars being pushed into this the way that they will be and the way that they are. So I would caution the body to just say, this is a process. We don't need to necessarily push forward like this. And any of the parties that were interested in having this location, they're still going to be interested. Thank you.
Representative Campbell, first time, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess a question for the bringer of the amendment, just so it's clear in my head, and maybe to help clarify to the previous speaker. My understanding is that the complex was approved, that $10 million was allocated, and required an additional legislative act to release and deploy those funds. The $10 million was then included in the supplemental budget, that being the legislative act that would deploy those funds already allocated. With the untimely death of that legislative act, the question is then what other legislative acts do we have to release and deploy those funds? And this amendment, which is now perfectly constitutional, is that legislative act. So here is the act that deploys the funds that have already been allocated because the legislative act prior died an untimely death. So this is just us deploying funds through legislative act that have already been allocated. So absolutely on and in favor of the amendment.
Representative Larson, Lloyd, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hats off to the good bringer of this amendment and those that signed on with him here. This is what we do. We've heard from one of the former speakers of the House talk about how this body and the body down the hall is, over the history of this state, have been engaged in making decisions that's moved the state forward and made the state great. All of our state parks, one at a time, has been gone through this process, and I'm sure had this same conversation. I think as we've looked at how we fund our and built our prison system, I recall the state kind of the same conversation on the state hospital, whether we should just contract that out like we do with the services for our adolescents. We mull it around, we make this, and then there always seems to be somebody in our body that looks for, as we navigate the waters, find a path to get us across through the turbulence into calm waters and moving forward. I think that's what this legislator has done for us. Appreciate all the good conversation. I think a couple of speakers ago that may have missed or didn't recall having the conversation, he may have been gone that day, but we did have it and have had it. I think this is what we do. We do things that enhance the state and make it better and move it forward, and I think that this is not out of line with what we've done on a lot of things. So well done, and hope that we can support the amendment.
Other members for their first time. First time, Representative Rodriguez-Williams, Chairman Williams, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, on and for the amendment. I appreciate the good representative from where the mountain's shaped like a heart, clearing up some of the misperceptions about how this would compete. I couldn't agree more with that statement because they've been at the table the whole time. And since the location's been chosen. Furthermore, I would say that I have yet to meet an organization or any business in this industry that is opposed to this complex. It's heavily supported. It's a unique opportunity for the state. And it's been well vetted by a task force that worked really hard. And there were competing communities that put in for this. I can guarantee, well, I'll back up. On and for the amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Banks for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I won't rehash everything that we've heard. Been a really good debate. I want to commend the good chairman of Judiciary for coming up with this idea. I'm glad there's 61 people in this body smarter than I am that can come up with good things like this. But just to ease some of the concerns here, I get the argument. I get it 100%. But if you want to kill the complex, this isn't going to do it. If you're against it, this is not the fight. This is simply saying we are honoring it at this time for a commitment we previously made. Not a rushed, rash decision, but we're honoring the time, the commitment, the resources, the local money, the industry money, the manufacturer money that has already gone together into this. We're honoring that the state of Wyoming is going to keep our seat at the table. That's what this dollar does, and I appreciate the good rep who said he'll throw $1 in, and I'd match it. But I think we can give up $1 to make sure that we just keep our commitment, we keep our seat at the table, we honor the work. If we want to have a fight about the complex, when that comes up next year during the budget, that's the place for it, not here. So on and for this amendment.
Any other member for their first time? Yes, we are still on first time. You have a chance if you'd like to opine on this. Seeing no one rushing to the microphones, second time. We're on our second time. Representative Schmid, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One last question I got about this monstrosity. Has anybody figured out what the owning and operating costs of this facility is going to be? Who's going to pick up that tab? Is that something we're going to continue to take care of too until we find somebody to maybe try it? And then what happens if it doesn't work? Are all those questions answered? I mean, when I expand my business or reach out into a new venture, I have those answers. I don't know that I've ever seen anything out there that answers those questions. So please think about that before you vote today. Thank you.
Any other members for their second time? Representative Wharf, for your second time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a better understanding of this legalese. It makes no sense to me when I read it in English. It says something totally different than what the legalese says. But one of the things that I think needs to be said, I think this body needs to understand that a previous legislative body does not have the ability to obligate a future body how it allocates funds or resources. And I just think it's important for this body to understand that. Vote your conscience. Thank you.
Anyone else for their second time? Just wondering if we've got a conference going on and somebody wants Representative Knapp for your first time, Chairman Knapp, or second time, excuse me, second time.
Mr. Speaker, it was stated that I might have missed that day, but I'm just reading from the task force itself, where last year, task force would make a recommendation to the governor, I'm sorry, not the executive branch, the JC, in one of our committees, and discuss the proposal and the sponsor of that proposal. And then we would come back this year to deal with the funds that were set aside in 2023 session law. But the authorization would be effective immediately following passage of the 2025 legislative session. So again, I'm wondering where the promise was. What I interpreted we were doing was going out for proposals. A proposal came back as to where the location would be based on the information that was going to be passed to the entire body, and that in this session, we would deal with selecting that proposal and providing a passage, similar to what's being done today, to make that proposal a reality. So this hasn't been promised in the past. Nothing was passed in the past. The money that was allocated to this came with the idea that we were going out for information, whether it would be a public project, whether it would be a private public project. But I think that the task force itself was to get us that information. So I still have the same question of why is this happening so quickly? What is the promises that we broke if we don't do this, and why this can't wait till we get to the budget session?
Any other members for the second time? Seeing none, back to the bringer, Representative Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Looking back on the last 8 weeks, I have to kind of laugh about being rushed. What have we been doing for the last 8 weeks? But doing great policy work, doing our very best for the people of Wyoming in a hurry. And you compare that to what's taken place with the task force since it was authorized in 2023, it's hard to say that the task force and its efforts were rushed. What we're doing with this amendment is what the legislation back in 2023 called for, that a further act of the legislature would be required before the funds in that task force account would be released. And your vote, aye, today, assuming this makes it to the finish line, will be that act of the legislature authorizing the release of that funds. This project from the get-go was more than just a shooting complex. It was designed and thought of and hoped for economic development in our state. And when we visited that other complex down south, the economic impact to that community after that facility was up and running at full bore been huge. And the impact ripples beyond just that community as people fly in and drive across that state to come to that complex. And that's what we're looking for here. I think there's been some muddying of the issues, but this amendment is very simple. You have my absolute pledge that we're talking about a single dollar. And if this amendment passes, there will be a conference committee, and we'll make sure it's adamantly clear that we're talking about $1 in terms of the money being transferred from the SIPA, $1. So the questions come up, is this the proper role of government to be involved in stuff like this? How many of you have ever gotten a phone call from a constituent saying, can you please sell that damn state park? Right? Darn state park.
Thank you,
There is a
Representative.
dam at the end of the state park.
That was almost a good save. Go ahead.
I've never gotten that phone call, all right? People of Wyoming, people of America have embraced government involvement in major outdoor recreation activities since Teddy Roosevelt, all right? And so we have all these state parks scattered across our state that cater to fishermen and anglers and water skiers and hikers and bicyclists. And it's about darn time that we had one for shooters and archers that reflects our values of the Second Amendment, our values as a state that's really invested in the firearms industry. You think about the number of these major firearms manufacturers. The good speaker just told me about another one. An ammunition manufacturer is moving up into his neck of the woods, coming from another state, coming to Wyoming, because of the values that we represent. The question is, was there a promise? I don't think anybody ever used the word promise, but there certainly was a high expectation that when the state launched this effort, that we were intent on building a world-class shooting facility for our state. When we think about that Wyoming Cowboy Code of Ethics that's enshrined in our statutes, all right? Number 3, always finish what you start. Number 4, do what has to be done. That's what we're doing, what has to be done. Please support the amendment.
Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 169. This will be a roll call. Chief Clerk, whenever you're ready, please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon? Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chustic? Flouston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Repeat. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas, excused. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Reagans. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Worf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker. Allemand, no to aye. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 42 aye, 19 no, 1 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 169. Next amendment for our consideration. Third reading amendment number 2 to 169, Representative Thayer. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I move third reading on Senate File 169 and ask for your favorable consideration. So again, I'm up here talking to all of you guys. I want to start with clarity, and then I want to talk about why on this amendment. We've talked a lot about germane and everything and the clarity of this amendment and how it fits into this bill. If you go to the bottom of page 1 of the bill, it talks about 9-4-220.1 Wyoming State Penitentiary capital construction accounts and funds transferred to the account. This amendment is asking for a transfer from the SIPA account into a subcommittee that is already in SIPA, $52 million. There is no general funds used, so this is already existing. So why? Why should this amendment be passed today? Well, let's talk about Niobrara County. Let's talk about Weston County. Let's talk about Goshen County. Let's talk about Carbon County and Fremont County. You guys, these are our people. These are our state employees. These are our friends. These are our family. These are your next door neighbors. There's over 800 employees that we're talking about with their safety. And we need to do the right thing. I'm asking on this amendment for you to approve the transfer of 18 million of that 52 million for the security system. We're talking locking door controls. We're talking man-down alarms. We're talking about security cameras and more. The money is in the SIPA account. It's within its own account, and this body has approved this once before. You guys, this is talking about safety. These are our people in Niobrara, Weston, Carbon, Goshen, Fremont. When you guys go home, you can tell them that we did the right thing to keep our local families safe. Thank you. I'm looking for your considerable, favorable consideration.
Any members for the first time? Representative Williams, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 3 of those counties you just heard mentioned are in House District 2, and so I will be an aye on this amendment. We're dealing with this amendment today because of what happened with the supplemental budget down the hall, and so, like we've heard, we've approved these dollars before. Please vote aye.
Representative Provenza, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So as you've heard me say up here about constitutionality, single subject, I've been a real stickler about it, maybe a pain in your rear a few times. My name is on this amendment. And I'll tell you why, and it's because if you look on page 3 of your goldenrod, under the Strategic Investments Projects account, so that's on line 72, that's the SIPA, so that's how this becomes constitutional and fits under the language of the title of this bill. So 72 is the SIPA account. When you look at line 93, you see the appropriations to the state penitentiary capital construction account. So that's the flow of the money. That's where people smarter than me are saying this fits in the title of the bill. So this amendment is constitutional. It does not violate our single subject. And beyond that, I will say, I mentioned this early on in the session, which was like 47 years ago at this point. This agency is using eBay. This agency is using a website on the internet where they're bidding on equipment they need to fix their locks. Is that good enough for your community safety? Is that good enough for the people that work in these facilities? I don't fix my locks with things I buy off the internet that are used. I wouldn't ask our prison to do it either. So I hope I can get your eye on this amendment. Thank you, body. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members for their first time? Representative Pendergraft for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to divide the amendment.
Okay, Representative, where did you want to divide it?
Lines 4 through 7 would be section 1. And the rest of the amendment would be section 2.
It is divisible. Now you're taking in all of 1 through 3 and then the remainder 8 through the remainder of the amendment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yes, it is divisible. Which division do you want to go with first?
The second.
Second division, okay. Please proceed.
Folks, this is what we attempted to do in our version of the budget. This is money that is set aside for the prison, and it seemed appropriate to me then, and it still seems appropriate to me now to use that money to attend to this situation. So I would urge an aye on section 2.
Any members for their first time on section 2? Representative Yin, first time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Yeah, so just to be clear, Division 2 is the majority of the amendment. Thank you.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
yes, this money is set aside in this account specifically to be spent on capital construction for the Department of Corrections, the department that oversees corrections. And just to be clear, that the security issue that we're talking about is not just for the folks in Carbon County. It's for all of the facilities that the corrections folks use throughout the state. So it is important not just to one community, but to several communities, and really the whole state, because this is a state issue to make sure that we keep our both employees safe, as well as the folks that are kept in those facilities safe. So on and for the amendment, aye on the bill.
Other members, first time on the amendment? Representative Thayer, would you like to speak on the amendment?
Thank you for that division for Division 2 and for this. This, again, is for our people and keeping them safe and doing the right thing. Thank you.
Any other members on Division 2? Second time on Division 2. We good? Okay. Representative Pendergraft, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Use your own judgment, vote your conscience, but this amendment would delete the Wash It amendment. Excuse me. I didn't say it. And if I misread it, I will retract that. But
yeah, that is Division 1. We'll delete the Wash It amendment.
okay, if that may be that was my only concern, was to protect what we had just done. So if I misread that, fine. And in that case, I would suggest an aye on the second, on the first division.
We're acting on Division 2, is what was established. So that's everything but the Washington
Yes,
Amendment.
okay. I'm sorry, I lost track of where I was. Yes, the 18 million from the 52 million, which is where we originally planned, I urge an aye.
Okay, on Division 2 is what we're talking about. Anyone else? Okay, we're back with, okay, we're at the bringer. Members, okay. You are being asked to vote on third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 169, Division 2. Now, mind you, this is lines 1 through 3, and then lines 8 through the remainder of the amendment. This is going to have an appropriation in this portion of it. So we're going to have a roll call. Chief Clerk, whenever you're ready, please call the roll.
Allemand? No. Andrew? No. Angelos? Banks? Bear? No. Brady? No. Bratton? No. Brown, Gary? No. Brown, Landon? Aye. Byron? Aye. Campbell, Elisa? Aye. Campbell, Kevin? No. Chestick? Aye. Clouston? Aye. Connolly? Aye. Davis? Aye. Eklund? Aye. Erickson? Aye. Feiler? Aye. Geringer? Aye. Guggenmoss? No. Harrelson? Aye. Harshman? Aye. Heiner? No. Heft? No. Jarvis? Aye. Johnson? No. Kelly? No. Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Aye. Larson JT? Aye. Lawley? Aye. Lean? No. Locke? No. Lucas, excused. McCann? No. Nicholas? Aye. Ottman? Aye. Pendergraft? Aye. Posey? Aye. Provenza? Aye. Riggins? No. Rodriguez Williams? No. Schmid? No. Sherwood? Aye. Singh? No. Smith? Aye. Storer? Aye. Strock? No. Stivar? No. Tarver? Aye. Thayer? Aye. Washut? Aye. Wasserberger? No. Webb? No. Weber? No. Worf? No. Williams? Aye. Winter? Aye. Wiley? Aye. Yin? Aye. Mr. Speaker? No. Are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 34 aye, 27 no, 1 excused.
By your vote, you have adopted third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 169, Division 2. On to Division 1. Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Division 1, I'm going to recommend an aye, which would restore the entire thing. Upon further consideration and a little bit of illumination from my good colleagues, I understand that it was not removing the amendment that I was worried about. Confusing language, especially for an old feller, so please vote aye.
Any discussion? You good? Question being called. Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 169, Division 1. All those in favor, let's see, do we have an appropriation in that? There is no appropriation in that portion, is there? So, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Division. All those in favor, please stand. I know y'all want to do the hokey pokey right now and start moving stuff around, but please try not to. Oh, yeah. Okay, you may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. This will be over in just a second, Representative Sherwood. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay, the amendment has been adopted. You may be seated. All right. That takes care of that. Next.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to move third reading amendment on Senate File 169 and ask for your favorable consideration. I cannot say that word today. Okay, so really this is just a cleanup. It's something as we were making it constitutional last night and working with LSO and the attorneys, we realized in the bill that this subcommittee of the 52 million was not very clear that the WSP would keep that money when the final transfer went over. So this is just clarifying on page 5, line 18. That was the intent, because I went over and talked to the bringer of the bill, and the intent was that those funds in that subcommittee would stay there. So this is just cleanup and clarifying. So thank you.
Any members for the first time? Representative Yin, for your first time, sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. This is what we call belt and suspenders. It's really about clarifying what the intent of the bill is. So the penitentiary account is a sub-account within SIPA. What the bill does is it gets rid of SIPA, but it also pulls out the penitentiary account as its own account that's no longer under SIPA. And so the language we just wanted to make sure is that we wouldn't also drain the penitentiary account by accident as well. So the penitentiary account, as you heard, has $52 million in it. While we will drain the rest of SIPA, the intent wasn't to also drain the penitentiary account. I think that we think that the language would still be okay, but this is what, again, we call belt and suspenders, just to make it extremely clear. The point is to remove SIPA, but not to also drain the penitentiary account. So ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any other representatives for their first time? First time? Seeing none, okay, back to the bringer. Representative Thayer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, like the good representative with the high peaks, on the top of page 2, it says there is a created Wyoming State Penitentiary construction account. That's clear, but then, again, we were just clearing up on section 4, at the end of section 4, that's clear one more time. And I like that verbiage that the representative used, but I'm going to have to keep it in my brain and get it correct. So I ask for a favorable consideration and cleaning up this final part of this bill.
Members, you are voting on third reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 169. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The amendment has been adopted. Third reading amendment number 4 to to Senate File 169. Representative Harshman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 169. Members, the amendment is similar to second reading yesterday. I had a lot of handouts with this yesterday. It does 3 things. On the amendment, lines 8 and 9, keeps the $10 million for the prison still flowing. Lines 13 through 19 keeps the 0.45% guaranteed to the school. And then I guarantee as well the LSRA. I just think, I thought long and hard about whether to bring this, because I think perhaps this amendment makes this bill survive, which I don't want to see this bill survive, but maybe it makes it survive to the end. But I think also, I don't think anybody, when I was looking at your faces yesterday, and I asked you, would you hire an investment, a broker for you that could only make 2.5% for you? No way. Bless you. No way. Right? And so I think that's really what we're talking about. So if you don't vote for this amendment, then you're going to cut 7% out of the school fund. And that's not even counting major maintenance. And we want to do another $120 million next year for a big high school in Campbell County. So you cut 7% out of the school fund just for operations, not counting major maintenance and Capcom. And for a total of $250 million for the 27-28 biennial budget. You just will not be able to make that up. You're not going to be able to pull that out of the rabbit out of the hat. And I just don't know how you can go home and tell your people, hey, we reduced your property taxes. That's an easy one. And we also reduced the income from our permanent investments. Because we don't like that income, I guess. I don't know, but we want to make this work harder and better. So I just think it's an oversight in the bill. If you want to streamline and say the SIPA is complicated, I don't know. I can spend 5 minutes with you, but I don't think we want to cut our revenue. Mr. Speaker, so I'd stand for any questions.
Any representatives for the first time? Representative Kelly, for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I like this. I voted for the similar amendment on the second one. Sometimes we've got to slow down. It's getting late in the day. It's late in the session. And I think some of us have been falling into some habits. Take a good look at this, think it over. I think this is well thought out.
Any other members for their first time? Any others? Representative Connolly, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Being new here, so a lot of this financial stuff is kind of going over my head, but this one is simple enough that even I can understand, so I'm asking for a favorable vote.
Other members for their first time? First time? None? Second time? Second time on the amendment? Hearing none, back to the bringer, Representative Harshman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just quickly, your aye vote for this amendment will prevent a $250 million cut in revenue for the biennial budget when the 68th makes a budget. And so this is so important, and prevent a 7% cut in revenue to our schools. So I'd like to invoke 12-4 for a roll call. This is a really important vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
2 seconds. Representative Provenza, Representative Kelly. Members, you're voting on third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 169. The roll call vote has been asked for. Chief Clerk, whenever you get things all ship-shape, please call the roll.
Element? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon? Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clauston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Feiler? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Campbell, Kevin, aye. Aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 28 aye, 33 no, 1 excused.
By your vote, you have chosen not to adopt third reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 169. Senate File 169 having been read three separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk, will please call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon? Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clauston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Feiler? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas, excused. McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins? Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer?
Excused.
Washut? Wasserberger? Webb?
Excused. Let's see there.
Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker,
Aye.
are there any changes? Storer? Aye to no. Brown, Landon, aye to no. Further changes? Nicholas, aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 46 aye, 14 no, 2 excused.
Senate File 169, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members selected to the House, Senate File 169 has passed the House. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File, get back to the page, Senate File 191.
Senate File 191, sponsored by Senator Beitman. State funds, proxy voting, and pecuniary investments. An act relating to state funds being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
We have amendments. Representative Locke, Chairman Locke, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring House third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 191. And I'm sorry, House, I'm getting a little tired. I can't bring it with the same energy as I came up here to that last time. But anyway, this amendment to 191, this is a slight modification. We discussed this in detail yesterday, so I won't torture you again that this ask is at least relevant to this bill, and it's being funded not from our general fund. It is being funded specifically from an account of money that is in this bill itself. And this is for our executive who is responsible for the investments, and this is for 2 full-time positions. These positions, I know this question was asked yesterday, these aren't specific to go away. These are going to go into the investment pool. Part of the goal of this money, as you know, there's some changes going on in our investment team. This funding is there to basically provide this additional funding for these 2 positions, as well as just allow them to make the changes to their investment team as they need to. And it's about the funding for this is $652,940. So a little bit lower appropriation. Again, not from the general fund. It's from this fund that's already being used to provide funds to this team. I ask for your aye vote on this amendment to make these positions available. Just to reinforce the fact, these positions are the positions that have been talked about numerous times on this floor. Basically, these are the people that are investing our billions of dollars of funds, and I'm just looking to give that executive this a little bit of additional help to make sure the investment team stays in place. So I ask for your aye vote.
Representative, anybody for the first time? First time, seeing none. Okay. Representative Locke. All right. Members, this is the third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 191. This will be a roll call. There is an appropriation. So, Chief Clerk, whenever you're got things ready to rock and roll, please call the roll.
Allemand. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Brady. Bratton. Brown Gary. Brown Landon. Byron. Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clouston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Feiler. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas, excused. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Riggins. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Wharf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Campbell Elisa, no to aye. Chestick, no to aye. Connolly, no to aye. Jarvis, no to aye. Geringer, no to aye. further changes. Bear, aye to no, further changes. Knapp, aye to no, further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 36 aye, 23 no, 3 excused.
By your vote, you have chosen to adopt third reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 191. Next amendment for our consideration, Representative Harshman.
Mr. Speaker, I'd move third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 191. I'm moving over to this microphone. Really thank the body for that last vote. It was really an important amendment, and appreciate you sticking with it. And really, it's about 30% of our income. And Wyoming we passed the biggest state in the union this year, number 1 in the United States in investment income per capita. And it's because of these people that we're funding, because we're in an international competition for the best brains to do this. So it's so important. This next amendment, after we're done here, I'm going to go take those little yellow tags I got off the 43rd. This is equally important. And I just think when we go home, I wrote down 4 things you could say at your town hall. We started a plan to ramp up our investments. We guaranteed that you'll never have an income tax. We maybe even have put in motion a plan that would generate investment revenue to get rid of property tax. And we're going to move our investment revenue from roughly 30% to hopefully 50%. I don't know. Now, we passed 33 election bills. Which one of those are you going to talk about? I mean, I don't know. We haven't had 33 cases of fraud ever in our state in elections. And then we had a coin for something, but I don't know what those bills even were, those 5 bills at the beginning. And but I think it's a chance for us, because you don't have much time, folks. We're 2/3 done with the 68th. And then you got the constitutional, I used to call it the unholy, unconstitutional vote, 2/3. But it is part of our Constitution, and not our original Constitution to even introduce a bill. So this bill, this concept passed out of our committee number 2 with 5 votes. So it's been through the committee. It was heard on the committee. It just died on committee of the whole. So it's been vetted by that committee, passed almost unanimously from the other body, supported by our chief investment person. He's the guy that's been selling tickets and doing jumping jacks for, as well as our retiring chief investment officer. And members, I don't know. This is really important. This doesn't do anything for another year. So if you look on the amendment on line 40, July 2026, I used the ladies who are on committee number 2's idea of the step down that was put in at the other end of the hall. They voted for this bill in committee, as well as the other members of the committee. So, man, I just hope 4th time's a charm. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for your first time? No members for your first time. Representative Harshman. You good? Okay. All right, body, we are voting on third reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 191. This has, let's see, there is no appropriation on this one, is there? We're good. Amendment. We're on number 2. Okay. No appropriation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Chairs in doubt. All those in favor, please stand. Okay, you may be seated. All those in favor, please stand. Or excuse me, all those opposed, please stand. Brain is starting to give up on me. Okay. All right, you may be seated. Amendment has not been adopted, 24-35. All right, next amendment for our consideration, number 3, Representative Larson, JT. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I respectfully withdraw third reading amendment number 3.
The bringer is asked to withdraw the amendment. Hearing no objection from the body, the amendment has been withdrawn. Next amendment for our consideration, amendment number 4. No, that's it. Or do I have one? Is that it? We're good. All right. Members, you are voting on, Senate File Number 191 having been read 3 separate times. The question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk will please call the roll.
Allemand. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Brady. Bratton. Brown Gary. Brown Landon. Byron. Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clouston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Filer. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas excused. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Riggins. Rodriguez Williams. Schmid. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Worf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Excused. Speaker Nyman.
Aye.
Are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused.
Senate File 191, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, Senate File 191 has passed the House. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes third reading for your first 68th session. All right. We are at that order of business of signing of enrolled acts. First enrolled act for our consideration, Senate Enrolled Act number 73.
Senate Enrolled Act number 73, being original Senate File 174, an act relating to state legislative districts, providing legislative findings, requiring management council to assign legislative appointment to a committee of the legislature for study during the 2025 legislative interim as provided by this act, providing that legislation to apportion the legislature based on the requirements of this act may be introduced during the 2026 legislative budget session and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act number 73, having been original Senate File number 174. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act 74.
Senate Enrolled Act number 74, being original Senate File 166, an act relating to elections, amending the time for circulating and filing a petition to form a new political party, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act number 74, having been original Senate File 166. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act 75.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 75, being original Senate File 165, an act relating to elections, amending notice of intent to cancel a registration as specified, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act Number 75, having been original Senate File 165. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act 76.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 76, being original Senate File 108, an act relating to recreational safety, adding agritourism as a recreation activity for purpose of the Recreation Safety Act, providing and amending definitions and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act Number 76, having been original Senate File 108. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act 77.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 77, being original Senate File 57, an act relating to emergency telephone service, requiring reporting of 911 outages, clarifying provisions related to reporting of revenues and expenditures, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign Enrolled Act Number 77, having been original Senate File 57. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act 78.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 78, being original Senate File 53, an act relating to trade and commerce, authorizing the Secretary of State to administratively cancel trademarks, service marks, and trade names as specified, providing the right to appeal administrative cancellations and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act Number 78, having been original Senate File 53. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act Number 79.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 79, being original Senate File 38, an act relating to the administration of government, amending the calculation of investment performance for the purposes of performance compensation for investment staff, making conforming amendments and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act Number 79, having been original Senate File 38. I have so signed. Next Enrolled Act, excuse me, Number 80.
Senate Enrolled Act Number 80, being original Senate File 10, an act relating to children, authorizing parents and guardians to enter into binding settlements on behalf of their minor children as specified, specifying limits on the parental or guardian settlement authority, amending the value of property that may be delivered on a child's behalf, authorizing the entry of binding settlements on a minor child's behalf as specified, making conforming amendments, providing a cause of action, specifying applicability, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act Number 80, having been original Senate File Number 10. I have so signed. Next, Enrolled Joint Resolution Number 2.
Senate Enrolled Joint Resolution Number 2, being original Senate Joint Resolution 4. A joint resolution requesting the governor concentrate on promoting stable dispatchable base load power resources from Wyoming in lieu of taxpayers subsidized commercial wind and solar generated power. Whereas Wyoming produces 4 of the cleanest resources of stable dispatchable base load power generation in the United States: clean coal, natural gas, uranium, and hydroelectric. Whereas Wyoming has the ability to provide these resources to the rest of the United States and the world for stable dispatchable base load power generation. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the members of the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign Enrolled Act Number, well, actually, Enrolled Joint Resolution Number 2, having been original Senate Joint Resolution Number 4. I have so signed. All right. It's working, Dwayne. Messages from the Senate? None? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stand at ease here briefly while we wait for some things to come our direction. And so don't rush off. Ladies and gentlemen, the show will continue after a brief intermission. Representative Nicholas, please.
Privilege of the floor. So ladies and gentlemen, it's taco night tonight, and we'll still got some work to do tomorrow. And so I hope you save your appetite, because you're all invited to come over to my house for crab night. It's an annual thing we do every year, and so everyone's invited. So Bring your bibs.
Thank you, Representative Nicholas. Any other members, announcements? This would be a great time to do it. Great time to do that. Okay. Stand up, stretch your legs if you so desire. Let the blood flow to your feet. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. And we will be right back with you shortly. Thank you. Representative Byron.
Thank you,
Chairman
Mr.
Byron.
Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Please.
Body, I'm going to hand out some really nifty bookmarks. And I know some folks in here might not be able to use them because of issues with reading, maybe right in front of me. But they're really cool bookmarks, and they have firearms on them. I got these from our Good State Museum right across the road here. And they have a phenomenal collection of firearms in there. And these little bookmarks have QR codes. Representative Erickson, I'll explain what those are later. And you can click on them and learn about that specific firearm. About every other week, they have this guru over there that works for state parks named Evan Green, and he does a video on a specific firearm that's usually in the museum in that collection, from donated from collections and acquired throughout over 100 years. And he does a little YouTube video on there, and you can hear about a specific firearm that may have came from the state. So anyway, really cool that we have that collection. I think there's about 100 of those videos on the YouTube. So I'm gonna hand these out. You can use them to click on the QR code. You can use them for a bookmark. But what's really cool is you can go see either on that YouTube through the website, or go walk over there if you're ever back in Cheyenne when we get out of here in a couple days or a couple weeks, and you can go see the collection that people have let the museum acquired and donated. It's pretty fascinating. So with that, I'll start getting my steps in for today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Geringer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Please proceed.
I got a little story, a little history story. The year was 1883. The Wyoming Territory was still untamed, a land of endless prairie, relentless wind, and scarce water. To the untrained eye, it was a place fit only for cattle, sheep, and coyotes. Certainly not for farming. But a man, Joseph Carey, had a different vision. Carey had already made a name for himself in Washington as the Wyoming Territory's delegate to Congress, but his mind was fixed on something bigger. He saw what very few others did, that the future of Wyoming didn't lie in livestock alone. It also lay in farming. Of course, there was just one problem: water. There wasn't enough of it, not for farming, not for settlement, not for anything beyond the occasional wandering herd of antelope. The land was dry, brittle, and unforgiving, but Carey was a determined man, and he wasn't alone. Joining him in this grand vision were Francis E. Warren, a future governor and senator, Andrew Gilchrist, a prominent businessman, and John Hoyt, a territorial governor, among others. Together, they formed the Wyoming Development Company, one of the most ambitious private irrigation projects in history, with help from a civil engineer whose ideas would reshape the American West. Their plan? Divert water from a river and turn thousands of acres of arid land into fertile farmland. It was a bold idea. Some called it foolish, others called it impossible. But Carey had something that most dreamers lack: powerful allies and a man who understood water better than anyone else. That man was Elwood Meade. Elwood Meade was not just a civil engineer, he was a visionary. He believed in something radical, that water didn't just belong to anyone, it should be carefully managed, distributed, and controlled for beneficial use. He had been appointed Wyoming's first territorial engineer, and for this project, this grand experiment in irrigation, it would be his proving ground. Construction on the main canal system began in 1883, and it was no small feat. A 2,380-foot-long tunnel was blasted through rock to divert water from the river into a system of canals and reservoirs. The labor was grueling, the setbacks frequent, but the work pressed on. By 1884, the first water flowed through the canals, and almost overnight, the land transformed. What had once been a dusty expanse became something entirely new. Lush fields of crops, farmers came, families followed, a community took root in what once had been considered dry prairie. But here's a part of the story many of us don't know. Meade's work on this project didn't just change Wyoming, it changed the world. His ideas on irrigation and water management became the foundation for future projects across the West. He later became the head of the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and was instrumental in projects like the Hoover Dam, Cooley Dam, and massive irrigation efforts all over the country and the world. The concept of water districts where farmers pooled their resources to fairly distribute water was born here on these Wyoming plains, a concept that would shape agriculture for generations. And the town that emerged from this great irrigation experiment? Well, in 1894, it was officially named and established, and in 1905, it was incorporated. And today it still stands, thriving, growing, and proving that vision can turn dust into prosperity. We refer to it in this body as the land of the wheat, but the rest of the state knows it by Wheatland. And now you know how it all came to be.
And that is the rest of the story. Representative Harrelson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I got to just chime in on that. If you've never had an opportunity and you want an adventure, go and make sure you have a good four-wheel drive vehicle. You can go down and see that tunnel. They started on either side of the mountain with no modern tools, and they met in the center. And I've been through the tunnel, all the way through it, and you cannot tell where they met. They came that close in their connection. Yeah, a tougher breed in those days, but they created an amazing irrigation system.
Anyone else? Ladies and gentlemen, just so you kind of know where we're at right now, we've got quite a bunch of concurrences and different things that are going to be coming from the other body and messages. But in an effort to allow our good staff up here to be able to put this all together and not keep you guys here all night, and we don't have it yet. I mean, it could come over, and so what I'm saying, in theory, if it got here, we could actually hang around and they would diligently try to work through it. But out of deference for them and being able to let them work through that process, we're probably going to shut things down here pretty shortly. Let them get those things over here from the Senate, and then we'll be ready to take them up in the morning. Tomorrow, it is going to be in and out, in and out, in and out, as we act on concurrences, create committees if necessary. I've just received a group of vetoes here and some other messages from our governors that we'll have to go over here this evening and get those things straightened out and kind of decide where this body wants to go on those. And so that's kind of the plan, the way it sits right now. So with that in mind, unless they have something else they would like to do, we are pretty well done. So Mr. Majority Floor Leader, I will say, let me just look down over this, make sure we don't miss something here. Adoption Conference Committees, we're good with that. Rolled acts are completed. Veto overrides. We'll probably just have to take care of those in the morning. And Mr. Majority Floor Leader, that clears the deck.
Mr. Speaker, this is one of the few nights that we get out before it's dark outside.
Yep, enjoy it. Go play baseball.
So, yeah, we can go out and play soccer or something. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House adjourn until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Wednesday, the 5th of March.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the motion of the good majority floor leader. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Before I release you, are there any announcements? Representative Rodriguez-Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 10 will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in room 3, just to hear a couple of presentations.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman Rodriguez-Williams. Chairman Andrew, committee number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 4, Education, will meet tomorrow upon noon recess in Capitol Extension Room 5 to discuss interim topics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Any other announcements before we release you? House Bill 47, JCC, Representative Baer. Noon recess tomorrow at room 113. That's where that will take place. So, anything else? Is that got her? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys go and have a blessed and enjoyable evening. Get some rest. We will be at this again tomorrow at 10 a.m., the 36th day of the session, March the 5th, 2025. Thank you for all your hard work today and what you did. We will look for you and we'll be enjoying our company again in the morning. Have a good evening, everyone.